Well, Casper would be a long rectangle square, and Shaqiri would be kind of oblong and misshapen.
Shaqiri's like a hexagon, trying to go into a round
cube.
Yep.
It's the cube, right? He's the master cube, or something like that.
And the problem is that at least Shaqiri has scored goals and actually has provided tons of assists so far. So
that has been good, and he is amongst the league leaders in that, and that must be commended.
I don't know if he's among the league leaders anymore.
He is for assists, top 10. I just checked.
Top 10, yeah, top 10, yeah. But he's making 8.5 million, so you would, is he worth the 8.5 million a year?
He's more worth his money than Gaston Jimenez is worth his money as a DP. Dollar for dollar DP wise, he's way more worth the money than Gaston.
Honestly, looking at this roster, you can't help but notice how much roster trimming you could do on this team and actually still have a really good squad.
Oh, we'll get into that. I'll get into that quickly here. Let's make a few more comments. We'll get into. I have a little thread about that. Okay. Chat saying Torres has not adapted to the MLS at all. Hopefully, he acclimates in 2023.
Yeah. Torres. I mean, if Shaqiri was a disappointment, Torres is a really big disappointment. Originally, when the Fire brought him in, he was hurt. We gave him time to recover. He played a little bit, still wasn't at 100%. He was out of the lineup again, and when he was on the lineup, it didn't seem like he was clicking with the team that well. I don't know if it's because Atlas had a much better team around him that he could literally play off, or he hasn't adapted to the MLS style, But the thing is, you would have expected him to kind of adapt to MLS regardless, and play like how he was playing in Atlas, And we haven't seen that, and that, in a way, in some ways, it makes you wonder whether it was a mistake to kick Brian Gutierrez off the lineup to put him in.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder that, and you've brought that up before, and I kind of dismissed it early on. I was like, it's easy to make him wait for Jairo. Let's give him some time, but it hasn't been justified.
Yeah, I mean, Brian Gutierrez, when he came off the lineup, Brian Gutierrez was probably playing his best football, or best soccer for the American listeners, and in that span. And you can notice a downward trend when he came off the lineup, and we put in Jairo Torres in it. And there wasn't much spark like we were getting with Brian Gutierrez. A lot more movements, a lot more runs, a lot more shots on goal. We were getting that from Brian Gutierrez. We were not getting that from Jairo Torres.
We were getting creation. We were getting sparks. Jairo Torres brought something else. He brought something else to the game, but at that point, the rest of the team had to readapt to what Jairo Torres brought to the table, rather than like some sort of tactic. So what we're seeing here is Ezra Hendrickson's mistakes as a coach, and his plan. His plan is he puts players in, he lets them play to their strengths, but by doing so, it mucks about with the chemistry of the rest of the team. You can't just plug and play like in Liverpool, where a lot of these players, may have different skill sets, but they overlap in certain areas and they have a general plan, even though Liverpool's struggling, maybe not the perfect example to use right now, but the fact that they have a plan on offense, on defense, and that plan is not really what Chicago Fire has in store when Brian Gutierrez or Jairo Torres switch out. It's a different thing each time, which is fine. But it's the inability to commit to that, and also when you had something good in Guti and moving away from that, it's kind of been a mistake. And has that been a mistake of a a new MLS coach, or is that a new MLS coach makes, or is that a mistake that a coach that is a veteran MLS coach like Peter Vermees makes? I gotta let you go. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say that's actually a good point. So when you mentioned Liverpool and the Premier League teams, when they do subs, a lot of times they sub in guys that will keep the tempo. They keep up that tempo. There's no, unless they're playing Park the Bus, there's no drop in their playing style. When Jairo Torres comes in, you notice a significant drop in the playing style when he comes out for a guy like Gutierrez.
Well, the XG goes down.
Yeah.
The Fire's expected goals goes down. There's a metric, and it shows that.
And the thing, too, is when you mention Ezra, honestly, I think, we've been discussing Ezra throughout the summer, and, it's been really hit or miss with him. And a lot more times it's been misses and kind of head scratchers.
He's an easy target to criticize because Chicago Fire just aren't good enough. And it's like another coach in that vein. We're like, why did they? We're once again as Fire fans, we're like, why did they pick this guy who can't do the job? Or it seems like that. We're feeling that, right?
Yeah, and then I think a lot of it too has to be with the GM. Heights.
Yes.
Which, by the way, it's
thanks for subscribing, Ogrin. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for hopping by. Kick that like button. Woo.
It's a lot of it has to do with him, but at the same time is that we've seen bad MLS teams do good stuff, with what they have. And I think a lot of it has to do with how a coach manages the team tactically, how the coach playing style is. And with Ezra, we're starting to see I guess I want to say that we're starting to see a similar pattern with Rafa Wiki, where a lot of his moves were head scratchers, where it's like, well, why is he doing that? Why are we playing this way? Why are we not, playing to so-and-so's best assets? And we're seeing that with Ezra. And again, it's, I mentioned this before, I wanted Ezra to succeed, but honestly, if we were to get a new GM, I don't think Ezra's going to last that long. Because as fans, if we can see Ezra's efficiency as a head coach, chances are whoever comes in as a new GM is also going to see that or already knows about it.
Right.
And unfortunately, if we want to win, we have to change the GM, the sporting director, or whatever the other guy is, and Ezra.
So I'm sitting here and I'm wondering, I was just listening to this podcast and I'm sitting here like, as a Bears fan, there's stuff to hope for. As a Blackhawks fan, there's stuff to be thankful for. As a Bulls fan, there's stuff to be thankful for and be hopeful for. Michael Jordan and the future. For the Cubs, there's something to be thankful for. For the White Sox, there's something to be thankful for, and there was something to be hopeful for. Kind of disappointed, but we're back to hoping. For the Fire, it's a whole lot of disappointment, and the hope never gets rewarded in the ways that it does for any of those other Chicago sports clubs for the past 20 years, and that is a problem, and that needs to be addressed. That systemic failure has reared its ugly head time after time because these decisions compound. The decision to keep Garrick Heights here for another year and let him retain and bring in a new coach compounds and digs the Fire, who are already in a deep hole, even further behind. It sets them even further behind Columbus Crew and Minnesota FC and Cincinnati. Chicago Fire is truly behind Cincinnati FC and Minnesota FC, and to a degree, maybe even Charlotte. And yet they've been in the league since 1997. KC, as bad as they are, as mistakes after their mistakes, they are not nearly as far behind those clubs as the Chicago Fire are, even though they've been struggling lately. I'd much rather have Peter Vermees here, an actual MLS coach. I think he'd be able to get more out of the squad over the entire length of the season had he been here. And that type of decision making and that failure of decision making, it's just gone on too often, and it's not going away, DPG. That's the problem. There's no indication it's going away.
You mentioned about hope. I think the only hope that as Fires fan we're so used to is hoping for a good rebuild. And we always talk about rebuilding every year. Every year it's a rebuild. So next year it's gonna be another rebuild. That's the running joke, is that every year for us is a rebuild. And you always hope and wonder, like, maybe this time they might actually get it right. Maybe this time they might hire a good GM. They might hire a great coach. He could turn it around. And imagine, you mentioned about Peter Vermees. Imagine Peter Vermees in Chicago with Joe Mansueto's money under a GM like Garth Lagerwey. You put those two guys together, they can make magic.
So Peter Vermees runs a bit more of his team than I think he would allow for Garth Lagerwey. That's the one thing about Peter Vermees' team. He is more responsible for the players he's bringing in, but he's also having to deal with Kansas City's budget. Imagining what he would be able to do with a team like Chicago's budget. So bringing in Peter Vermees kind of precludes you bringing in a guy like the Sounders guy, but either way, we need a culture changer. We need to bring in that level of guy. That's a Bruce Arena. There's culture changers in MLS at every different level, and Chicago Fire has none of those.
Yeah,
none of those. Hasn't had them for years. And guess what? Some of those culture changers have been Chicago Fire players.
And that's actually the sad reality.
It's heartbreaking.
We have all these guys from a successful era of the Chicago Fire history that have gone on and done great things. You got Jesse Marsh out over there in Leeds United making things happen. You have Bocanegra as a GM. You have John Thornton as a GM. So we've had guys. Jim Curran in Philadelphia team that, by the way, is destroying everybody by 3 or 4 more goals. So
Jesse Marsh.
You think about that. All those guys at one point play together. Or might have played in different eras, but regardless.
I wonder what made Jesse Marsh, though. Did Jesse Marsh go to Red Bulls and help change the culture, or did he develop his culture at Red Bull? Or would he have done the same if we had brought him over to Chicago instead of him ending up in Red Bulls?
So, I think about that. And the thing about it is that Jesse Marsh started off his coaching career as a coach for Montreal. He didn't do so good there. I guess you could call it, trial under fire or whatever, And, somehow he landed the New York job. And, he turned it around for that team. I'm trying to think, was that around the time that they had brought in Ali Curtis as a GM
or either got rid of him?
Or they got rid of him, and
so they're saying that they gave Curtin a really long leash then. 2016-ish, people were calling for him to be fired. They say we fired the kick guy to change the culture. Still sucked.
Yeah. There was a couple of people that I, throughout the years I met from the Fire organization that they got rid of. And these guys were around since 1997.
Mm-hmm.
Because they figured, okay, well, we're going to start a new regime. Let's just get rid of everybody that belonged from an era that we were successful, and let's just start from scratch.
Let's get rid of winners. Yeah, that's loser mentality.
So, and look where we're at. We're in a rut.
We
can't get out of it.
And
we cannot get out of it.
DPG, it's not just a rut. This is a crater. This has been an impact from space. How deep this crater is, you would think this is a meteorite that's been running around for the last 3 eons that just smashed into Chicago and just pummeled the Chicago Fire into inexistence, deleted them because they've been gone for the last 20 years. I always refer to this. What team, and it hurts me to say, but what team, if you pulled out of MLS, it wouldn't matter, it wouldn't affect them? Chicago.
Yeah.
it hurts me to say, it pains me to say it, because it shouldn't be that case.
It shouldn't.
It's mishandling. It's gross negligence, and also nobody wants to even bring this up as often as we probably should. It's Don fucking Garber's fault, guys. It's all fucking Don Garber's fault. It is. We should be up in arms in Chicago. Chicago fans should be dead set about getting Don Garber the fuck out of MLS, far out, and get a new voice in there, because he is the reason. Chicago is not Toronto. Chicago is not Seattle. It is. There is one thing that has been constant, and that is Don Garber's fucking middle finger sticking it to Chicago.
And it makes you wonder.
I just realized that.
And also you actually had a good point there, because it makes you wonder. You look at teams like LAFC that are signing like 3 or 4 DP caliber players on TAM deals. And you look at teams like Seattle and Toronto making moves that you're wondering how the hell do they manage to do that in their salary cap, And I wonder how much of that Don Garber has a hand in.
He artificially depressed Chicago with his grubby little fingers.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, he took out Miracle Grow for Toronto. Took out Miracle Grow for LA Galaxy. It's not working right now. They got to pull out some more. They took out Miracle Grow for LAFC. They even took out Miracle Grow for Club de fucking Foot Montreal, letting them take Didier Drogba. What the fuck is wrong with them? I'm swearing now. The governor's off, because Garber crossed the line and continually crossed the line, and we as Chicago Fire fans have let it slide. We've been kind of confused into believing, he's not has anything against Chicago. Yeah, he wants success for the league. He wants success in Chicago. He wants success in Chicago. He put Nelson Rodriguez here to make sure that Chicago stayed down, depressed, because he is a mole sent from the NFL, DPG. Yeah. He is here to make sure soccer does not overtake the NFL.
And you know what?
Conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Nelson Rodriguez. The funny thing is that when Nelson Rodriguez came, and I don't know if I mentioned this before, I remember the first time I met Nelson Rodriguez, they were having a grand opening at the Fire Pitch or whatever. It was like they had just barely opened in. They had, Pano was there, his first year as coach, and Nelson Rodriguez was there. And Nelson Rodriguez made this whole spectacle about, team building, about club, tradition, honor. He literally stood on a chair and started shouting these things out like you would think that this is something like a 10-year GM will be doing, But he tried to hype everybody. He tried to hype everybody up, and at the end of the day, all he did was pretty much just ruin the Fire even more. And to make matters worse, you see the guy standing next to Don Garber at an All-Star game, like nothing happened.
Like that guy doesn't even. He's not even mad at what Don Garber has done to Chicago Fire, and he was directly involved with it. That tells you what? He's a minion.
Yeah.
He got he paid upward. He got promoted upward.
I personally think it's time for Don Garber to step aside.
Yes.
And just let someone else take the reins.
Guys, that's our new campaign. Screw Heights out. There's nothing that's going to actually change Chicago Fire more than getting Don Garber out. Nobody said it until today, DPG. Nothing will change Chicago Fire more than getting Don Garber out of office in MLS. No one will benefit more than Chicago Fire.
And on top of that, it kind of makes you wonder, like, if Don Garber is out, because the only good thing that Don Garber did was keep the league alive 20 years ago. That's probably the only thing I can remember him for. I don't care about how many teams he brought into the MLS. I don't care how many expansion teams he brought in. But it makes you wonder if whoever becomes the next MLS commissioner, how much reign are they going to give the owners? Because you have owners that want to go beyond the current salary cap, that want more freedom in the player market, because they have deeper pockets.
I'm sure Joe would love to just solve his problems with money, but Joe's not even amongst the top 10 richest owners in MLS. He's top 15 at best. We think that we Chicago Fire fans have been hoodwinked, guys. Absolutely hoodwinked. We think we got one of the richest owners in MLS because he's a billionaire. Are you kidding me? He's not even top 10.
I mean, at least he's not Andrew Hoffman.
At least he's not Andrew Hoffman. Yes, that's true. How's this for kind of, I don't agree at all, but it's an idea, but I'm going to say, would Shaq work better next to Federico Navarro as a deep lying playmaker? Federico could disrupt it, feed it to Shaq. Shaq springs the attack. Says no, Gaston, I'd be interested to see him there with all the defensive duties on Fed, but that's exactly what it'd be, all the defensive duties on Fed.
Pretty much. And on top of it, think about this. How motivated is Shaq going to be to play here next year once the World Cup's, come and gone?
I'm wondering that. I see it. You see, he's a confusing player because he does have a competitive fire. He absolutely does. It's burning in him, but the way he goes about it for the club is not. It's for Shaqiri. It's not for the club. That's who it's for.
It's like, a lot of times it makes you wonder that we were kind of spoiled with Bastian Schweinsteiger, his attitude towards the club and the city.
Absolutely.
And we were hoping for something similar like that to Shaqiri, with Shaqiri. We haven't gotten that. The only thing we've gotten is a guy that's more loyal to play on the Swiss national team than he is for the Fire.
Oh, for sure. And Bastian Schweinsteiger was for sure loyal, was so loyal. Did everything he could for the Chicago Fire as an ambassador, I feel, and more. Still is. Sode's saying that they allowed Jim Curtin to figure it out over there. Should we really change every 3 years or try to learn our way out of it? Well, that's the thing. They were in a position where they could let Jim learn, and they could let Jim grow to become the coach, because they're not Chicago. And we need an established coach. We are to be respected. We're not supposed to be the backwater college of MLS. We're not supposed to be the SEC feeder colleges to the big boys. We're supposed to be the big boys.
Yeah. And here's the thing too. Something to think about. What has Jim Curtin's team in Philadelphia, what have they done the past couple of seasons? Except for this season. This season they're on a tear, but what about the past couple of seasons?
They've won regular season games. They've won a lot of regular season games.
But they haven't won an MLS Cup. Have they won a US Open Cup?
I don't think so. I'll have to double check that right now. Philadelphia Union. They only started playing in 2008. Oh wow. Let's see if they've won ever. They've got first place in 2020. They won the MLS back tournament. Is that right?